Howdy folks, gonna read a little piece from a book called From the Top tonight. Currently on sale at sneezingcow.com for $9.99. Let's not be crass. Chicken Coop Campout. Last week I wound up sleeping in our brand new chicken coop, which at first might sound as if it's going to be a tale of marital woe, but thankfully this is not the case. No, this is a story about being a dad, or trying to be a dad. I got a late start in that department, meeting my elder daughter, my given daughter as I call her, when she was 3 and I was in my late 30s. Amy has proceeded to light up my life in ways I did not anticipate. Of course, she's also thrown me into the bottomless pits of uncertainty, as that is what children do to grown-ups who think they have it all figured out. You just never know if you're doing the right thing or not. Shortly after we met, I taught her to perform pantomime dog tricks. That is, I'd tell her to sit, and she would sit. I would tell her to roll over, and she would roll over. I would throw her an imaginary dog treat, and she would catch it. In between, she would pant happily, her tongue out and waggling. The show really got to be pretty popular with the relatives and, frankly, pretty much anyone who'd stand still for it. And we even worked up this bit where I would very carefully place an imaginary dog treat on her nose and then say, "Stay, stay," and then I'd snap my fingers and she would flip the imaginary treat into the air and catch it on the way down. We were doing this in the living room one day and folks were applauding and Amy was wagging her pretend tail, and suddenly it hit me that the day she finally dials up social services, this little bit right here will be number 1 on the list of submitted indignities. Amy stopped doing the dog tricks a few years ago. She's already nearly as tall as me and on the verge of becoming a young lady. And as of today, she's 20 years old. Not as of today, but she's 20 years old now and way taller than I am. We split some firewood together today. And this is the other thing about children. At some point, after they stop howling all night and toothlessly gnawing on your chin, they learn to walk. And once they learn to walk, they find their way to the clock of time and attach a rocket to the minute hand. I find myself breathless sometimes when I look at my children and want desperately to slow things down. When my younger daughter Jane became potty trained, the only drawback was that she couldn't reach the bathroom light switch, so Dad still had to lever his lard out of the chair whenever she went in there. Then our friend Lori made her a flat stick with a scallop and a hole in one end. By using the scallop to push the switch up and the hole to pull the switch off, Jane could run the light herself and Dad could remain a lump. Then one day, Jane called out to let me know she needed some assistance in the bathroom, or, as she put it, "I have a surprise for you." And when I got done with that job, the less said the better, really, although as a long-time volunteer firefighter, let me say you just never know when that hazmat training is going to come in handy. We washed up and headed for the door. As I reached for the switch, Jane jumped in front of me and said, "No, Daddy, I can do it." And without that stick, she reached up and then got on her tippy toes and click, off went the light. And crack went my heart. Because I was happy for her, sure, and real proud. But I also felt like I had stepped off into a black hole and was trying to grab armfuls of time. You can't slow it down, though, and you can't wallow in the past. Can't spend your life, as I wrote recently, in a hesternal funk. Hesternal means yesterday, basically. So the night our new chicken coop was finished and the floor was still clean and inside it smelled of fresh wood, Amy and I, Amy, the little girl who is now nearly as tall as me, unrolled our sleeping bags on the floor and camped there overnight. We giggled and spoke in the voices of imaginary chickens. In the dark, after Amy was asleep, I smelled cool night air and kiln-dried pine, and I listened to her breathe, and I ignored the vanishing past and speeding future, and instead fell gratefully asleep in the wholehearted present. All righty, take care of each other. Forward.